What is up, guys? It's Ethan Ryder with Soccer for Us Kids, U.S Kids. I'm here recapping Match Week 22 as well as Match Week 23. Two very good weekends. I previewed Match Week 22 with the big game being Tottenham versus Manchester United. The first game of the weekend was West Ham versus Arsenal. Arsenal came out and did not play to the best of their abilities, and West Ham punished them. It's been an up and down season for Arsenal. They lost 1-0 in this game with West Ham, like I said, punishing them, and Arsenal have had some ups and some downs that just haven't quite really gotten into that top four type of form. It's going to be a very tough season for them to try and get in the top four. The top four race is really heating up right now, especially after Match Week 23. I'll get into that a little bit later on, but Arsenal need to continue, and they need to step up under Emery. Maybe they can make a couple signings. It sounds like they don't have that much money, but they will try, whether it's Yannick Carrasco coming from China, except that seems like a little bit of a stretch of a deal considering they don't have that much money. He's on somewhere around $180,000 a week wages in China. They have just an amazing amount of money, and Arsenal may not be willing to spend it. But someone like Denis Suarez from Barcelona might be something that can help them out. We'll just have to wait and see. The next game of the weekend was Burnley against Fulham, and Burnley came out on top 2-1. It was a very good game for them, but this was really a game between two teams that were so promising at the beginning of the season. Burnley were coming in, they had Europa League football. Fulham were coming in, they made a bunch of signings. They looked like a team that could be very strong, making signings like Schürrle and Jean-Michel Sarri. And these are players that are really good players. And they were looking to really challenge in the Premier League, but right now they're in the relegation zone, and that's not good for them. The next game was Crystal Palace versus Watford. Crystal Palace lost this game to Watford 2-1. Watford have been very good this season. Crystal Palace not as much. Crystal Palace have been struggling recently just because Zaha hasn't really been on form. The last 14, 15 games, he hasn't even scored. He's assisted like once. It's just not what they need from such a big player for them. It's surprising they're not even farther down the table. Cardiff City Huddersfield played to a pretty boring 0-0 draw. Pretty sure that's what I said when we were predicting. Either it was me or maybe even Trevor might have said that one, but it was 0-0 draw, pretty boring. The next game was Brighton versus Liverpool. Liverpool came to the Amex needing a win to stay at least 4 points ahead of City. They got the win through a Salah penalty. It was a clear penalty. Salah dispatched it home for them. It was a 1-0 win. Not the best performance, but they did dominate during the game. They didn't get as many goals as they might have wanted, but they came out with results, which is all that matters at this stage in the season. Leicester City played Southampton, Leicester City lost 1-2, Southampton winning. Southampton have been really strong under their new manager, Hassan Hurdle, I think is how you say his name, I'm not sure. He is very lively on the touchline, and he's really gotten this Southampton team to getting more out of their results and more out of the players that are very good for them. Redmond was signed for them. He's starting to become a very good player for them under their new manager. Danny Ings was looking even better under their new manager. Ward-Prowse is someone that's really stepped up, and this manager is really getting the most out of them. And they've beaten Leicester City, who, Claude Puel, they've been playing good games, but they're just not getting the results, which is a little unlucky as a manager because they have played very well, but just not getting the results. Chelsea played Newcastle 1-2-1. It was a close game. They ended up having Willian save them in the end with a brilliant goal curling effort into the upper right-hand corner. It's a little bit frustrating for Chelsea. Sarri and their team have really dropped off a little bit in form. They had a good game, but they really let such a side that's down towards the relegation zone come back, and they were tied with them, Newcastle, after a header from a corner. It was a great header, but it's just not enough for Chelsea to have that close of a game with such a poor opposition. Everton beat Bournemouth 2-0. Everton have been strong this season, but they've also had downs. They're kind of like Arsenal, up and down season. They've had signings. It's been more of a disappointment for them than it has for Arsenal, though. Richarlison was very strong at the beginning of the season, but since his injury, hasn't quite been the same. They have strong players. Lucas Digne has been very good for them at left back. He was really helpful in this game. And they ended up being a strong Bournemouth side. Bournemouth have been very strong through the likes of Callum Wilson and the likes of Ryan Fraser. They've been playing very good games. The next game after that was the big game of the weekend, Tottenham versus Man U, and it lived up to all the hype. It was not maybe the most goals scored, but boy, was it an exciting game. Back and forth affair. Just before halftime, Paul Pogba found Marcus Rashford with a brilliant ball, and Rashford put it home, and that was that. Man U won 1-0. Tottenham did have a lot of chances, but they just couldn't muster enough to get a goal and tie it up. So Man U came away with the win, giving Solskjaer still with the 100% record. And the last game of the weekend was Man City playing Wolves, trying to keep their 4-point gap against Liverpool. And so Man City came out 3-0 winners. Wolves got a red card from Bali. You might say it was a little bit of karma, as they like to say, because Bali did get a handball goal the last time these two teams met, and they ended up tying. But Man City won 3-0. Once the red card happened, it was just Man City in the driver's seat. It wasn't even a close game. They really dominated them. Wolves tried a lot, and they're a very talented team, but they couldn't get anything out of this game. That was match week 22. We're going to move on to match week 23. The first game of the weekend was an absolute thriller. It was a 7:30 a.m. game for me here in America and on the East Coast. And the Wolves were buzzing for this game. Their home fans really saw this as a game that they could go out and win, and that they did. Diogo Jota scored a hat-trick. He has not scored that many goals this season, but scoring a hat-trick was very good for him. He is now the second Portuguese to score a hat-trick in the Premier League other than Ronaldo. They were both 22 and they did it, so maybe this is a foreshadow. I don't really think so, but that was kind of a joke that was being played. But a very good performance from Jota. And Leicester City, once again, they played a really good game, but just right at the death, they couldn't hold on. It was a back-and-forth affair. Wes Morgan with the header to make it 3-3. It was very good. It was 3-3. It looked like Leicester City had salvaged a point away from home against a very good Wolves side. But just at the end, Ruben Neves played a brilliant long ball to Jimenez. Jimenez played it back across the box, and Jota finished, and it was 4-3 to Wolves. Their coach came on, and he's gotten suspended, but it was such a great game for them. And Neves is just a brilliant talent. He had a really good shot at the beginning of the game that Schmeichel saved, and he's someone that has really been consistent for Wolves. He has had a couple bad games, but most of the time, Neves is just a spark that really gets the Wolves going. He can score, he can shoot from long range. His passing ability is absolutely insane. He's made a lot of very good tackles this season, and he's that spark in the middle of the field that's just been very consistent for them so that they can be such a strong team that they are. The next game was another thriller. It was another 4-3 game. Liverpool coming out on top against Crystal Palace. They did have Milner get a red card, and it wasn't the best performance they've had. Sometimes they played against these teams, and the other teams just have had absolutely no chance. Doesn't even look like they're going to get scored on. They keep clean sheets. That wasn't the case this game. Crystal Palace were getting dominated, but against the run of play, they went out on top. Zaha got past Milner, played it inside, and Townsend, the man who has just been scoring against big teams with his volley against Manchester City. This one wasn't quite as good of a goal, but it was a very solid team goal for them. Zaha just out in the left, played it inside. Townsend put it past Alisson, and it was 1-0 to Crystal Palace. At halftime it was. But right after halftime, Van Dijk took a shot from long range. It took a deflection, and Salah put it home for Liverpool, and it was 1-1, and then right, just like that, Firmino scored it to make it 2-1. But then Crystal Palace weren't done. They came back with a corner, and James Tompkins had a header that was right in the bottom corner. Alisson couldn't have done anything about it. It was a good play by Crystal Palace, a couple picks here and there, and Tompkins headed it home, and it was 2-2. After that, Liverpool did get back with a Salah goal. It was a little bit lucky. Speroni kind of messed it up, but Milner put it inside. If Speroni didn't touch it, Salah probably would have gotten it, but Salah ended up tapping it home for Liverpool. It probably would have gone anyways as an own goal, but Salah does get it in his race for Golden Boot. And then Mane scored to make it 4-2. Seemed like all done, but Crystal Palace did get one back again. Liverpool did dominate, and it was a very good game for Liverpool, but they just were a little shaky, which is not normal for them as they've been a very good defensive side so far this season, but they're going to keep building on this. It's going to be interesting to see how they do build on this performance because at the end of the day, it was a good result, and results are what matter this season. But to let in 3 goals at Anfield, where you've only let in 3 so far this season, to double that in one game is a little bit concerning for the likes of Jurgen Klopp and the team. But it'll be something that they'll see as a win, and they are still 4 points clear at the top of the table. The next game was Watford-Burnley. It was 0-0, but at the end of the game, there was a little bit of controversy as Chris Wood went through and tapped it in for Burnley, but they called him offsides, and it was unrightfully to call him offsides. The only thing offsides was his hand, which is not considered something that can be in an offsides position, and because offside is really just whatever part of your body can score a goal. And so him putting that in and being offsides was a tough blow for Burnley, but it does salvage a point for Watford, I guess, as you can say, at home. So that was a 0-0 draw. The next game was Newcastle beating Cardiff 3-0. That is something that's a kind of a shock. Cardiff City did just buy a striker, so hopefully their scoring tally goes up. They're only 2 points from safety. And they're still, even though they've had such a struggling season, the fact that they are 2 points from safety just shows how close that relegation battle is. Newcastle, with that 3-0 win, actually brought them ahead of Cardiff City because they're at 21 and Cardiff City's at 19 points. And so Newcastle with 3 goals, and Jose Perez getting in on the score sheet, and their center back scoring 2 goals. One of them he didn't even know much about. It was just a corner kick, and it kind of hit off of him. The other one, he dribbled down almost the whole field and then put it into the bottom corner. Not a typical center back goal, but he did score it. Fabian Schär for Newcastle. 3 goals for Newcastle. That's a strong performance for Rafa Benitez's men. The next game was Man United versus Brighton. Solskjaer was looking to keep his 100% record, and he did, as Man U won 2-1. They looked home and dry as Pogba scored a PK, and Marcus Rashford, looking like a top-tier striker, did a little move, and from a very tight angle found the top corner. A brilliant goal. But they did allow Brighton to get one back, but Solskjaer is still at 100% rate, but they are still in 6th place just because of what Mourinho did for them. So it'll be interesting to see if they can get into that top 4 by the end of the season. And also to see if Solskjaer is manager next season. And the next game was Bournemouth versus West Ham. Bournemouth coming out on top. The first goal was an absolutely brilliant strike from Callum Wilson, who's been scouted by the likes of West Ham and Chelsea. And he's someone that looks like a top-tier striker, but he's just injured every now and then. But this was a brilliant goal. It just fell to him, top of the box, volleyed it upper 90s. Nothing the goalie could have done about it. An absolute smasher. It was a great goal from him. And then the next goal was just at the end of the game. West Ham were pushing and counterattacked by Bournemouth. David Brooks found Josh King in the middle and smashed it home. It was nothing that Fabianski could do about it. West Ham were without Arnautovic, and Arnautovic has been getting transfer rumors as of late, but it is talks that he's actually going to stay at West Ham, but he could move to China or the likes of Chelsea or even Manchester United. We'll have to see where that transfer goes. I would think it's more likely that he goes in the summer transfer window rather than January transfer window, just because the price is going to be jacked up because it is the January transfer window. And so I'd be surprised to see him go in this transfer window, but he could definitely still go in the summer transfer window. The next game was Southampton versus Everton. Southampton got the 2-1 win. It was a very brilliant goal from Ward Prowse, who is playing very well under the new manager, and an own goal from Lucas Digne, and Sigurdsson got one right at the end. It was a good game for Southampton. Everton still a little bit struggling under Marco Silva. The up and down season is continuing to be up and down. Considering that they got that win against Bournemouth last week, such a good side, but then this week couldn't quite find it against Southampton, who do look like a very good side under the new manager, but they just didn't look up to task, especially with some of their new signings haven't been as good as people might have expected. People were really hyping up Everton with the likes of Yerry Mina and the likes of Tyson and Cenk Tosin and these players that they were buying. They thought that they had players that could help them out. Lucas Digne has been very good, but some of the other people haven't quite stepped up for them. The next game was Arsenal versus Chelsea, the big game of the weekend. Arsenal ended up coming out 2-0 winners, and this has been an up and down season for Arsenal, but this is a huge win because this is a win that brings them closer to Chelsea. They're fighting for that top 4 spot. They're now in the same range as Man U, really just getting close to that Chelsea top 4 spot, making that race such a big and tight race that's going to be interesting to see for the rest of the season. Arsenal, with the likes of Aubameyang and Lacazette, have been very strong. It was a brilliant first goal from Lacazette. He got the ball and just smashed it into the near post. Nothing Kepa could have done. And it was just a very good game for them. The second goal was maybe a little bit of luck because Shawnee tried to head the ball, mistimed it, hit off his shoulder into the side netting. It was a brilliant shoulder goal, if that's what you like to call it. But Arsenal really just showed that they're going to have up and downs. That they dominated Chelsea in the first half. In the second half, Chelsea had some chances, but they just never could score. And it's a little bit of a scare for Chelsea. Sorry ball at the beginning was brilliant. They were passing, they were scoring goals, they were getting wins. But right now, it's just not as much. And a lot of the spotlight has been on Jorginho, who got bought by Sarri and is someone that Sarri really likes from his Napoli days. But he is kind of forcing him into the lineup, which also forced Conte out of that defensive mid role. And I personally think that that's kind of destroying the better midfield that they could have. Jorginho's a very good player, but by buying him, they forced Conte out of his preferred position, and I don't understand that move because Conte is just such a good defensive mid player. He was the best in the world. He was player of the year. He was playing for France, winning them a World Cup. He was playing for Chelsea, winning them the Premier League, playing for Leicester, winning them the Premier League. And then to move him out of the position to a more center mid, trying to score goals, it's just not who he is. And Jorginho is just not good enough to take such a good player and Conte out. And it's really showing. Jorginho has not played very well. He's not getting many assists. He's not getting goals. He's not defending very well. He's really subpar in the middle of the park. And Conte has been playing better than him in his unpreferred position. So I think you need to put Conte in that defensive mid position and then build from there. Even maybe build from Conte, your team, because he is that good of a player. But they've really just forced him out. And if I was Conte right now and they're not looking to change that up, I would think about leaving, because he's a very good player that's kind of rotting away right now at Chelsea just because of what Sarri's doing and his preference for such a player like Jorginho from his Napoli days. The next game was Huddersfield versus Man City. Man City didn't play their greatest game, but they came away with the win. It was 3-0. It was kind of like Liverpool in a way, that it wasn't their best game, and if Man City were playing someone better than Huddersfield, they may have been punished, but they still came out with the win. And just like Liverpool, at this point in the season, results are all that matter. They kept the 4-point cushion for Liverpool, but only to 4 points, and their results are getting them wins, and they need to just stay with Liverpool, because Liverpool, if they stay with Liverpool and keep winning, then Liverpool might screw up, and if Man City screw up, then Liverpool's going to have to keep winning. It's just every week is a big game for them. It's almost for each team. Every week is like a cup final, basically, because they have to win every game. Liverpool have to win every game for the season, because if you're looking at this game, you just kind of have to assume that Man City is going to win the rest of their games. And for Man City, you have to assume the same thing for Liverpool. They're going to win every game. So it's heating up this title race. There's 15 or so games left, and both teams have pretty easy schedules, but also tough schedules. Like, it's going to be a great end of the season. We're just going to have to see what happens. The last game of the weekend was Tottenham playing Fulham. They lost Harry Kane to an injury, and he's going to be out for a while. Fulham got ahead first, and Fernando Llorente was brought into the side to score some of the goals that Harry Kane missed. He scored an own goal. Sad for him, but they came back. A great ball from Christian Eriksen 6 minutes after the second half started. Dele Alli headed it home, gave him the tie. They were tied 1-1, and then right at the end of the game, Nkodu, who is actually his first assist for the club, even though he's got there in 2016, crossing the ball, and Harry Winks headed it home. You can always count on a Harry scoring for Tottenham. No Harry Kane, and he stepped up to give them the goal, to give them the win. Tottenham are still technically in the title race challenge. They have lost games and are really struggling to stay with the likes of Man City, Liverpool, just showing how hard what Liverpool and Man City are doing. But they are staying in that race. They're staying in that race and really cementing the Champions League spot. It's really a three-way race at this point and almost a two-way race. If Tottenham slip up at any point, then it really is going to become a two-way race. It was a great weekend of soccer, and Liverpool are still top of the table, 4 points clear of Man City, with Tottenham below Man City, and then Chelsea, and then Arsenal, and then Man United. It's going to be a great top-of-the-table race, but also relegation battle with the likes of Huddersfield way down there. It's going to be interesting to see if Huddersfield can get out. They may just kind of succumb to the fact that they're going to leave the Premier League this season. They even left their manager. They both mutually parted ways, David Wagner, who really helped them stay in the Premier League last season. They're going to need a miracle to stay up again, but don't put it past them because they did do it last year. Newcastle are just above that relegation zone. Fulham are down there, and Cardiff City are down there. It's going to be an interesting relegation battle to see who can stay up, but teams are going to buy some players in January. The January transfer window is almost closed. There's about 10 days left, but they are going to keep buying players, see who can make them better and maybe stay up in the Premier League. But it's been a very good weekend. Thank you guys for watching. Hit that subscribe, hit that like button, hit the bell so you can get your notifications. And thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you next time.